Even now, I want to believe that if I love enough and try enough, this family can still be saved. I built that house with my own hands, paid every bill, kept everything standing. But tonight I'm 20 miles away in a hotel, watching the second hand crawl. In less than 3 hours, Jessica will step into our kitchen and see the divorce papers, along with the proof that will set fire to her perfect kingdom. Proof she slept with my brother, and that for 2 years my kids looked me in the eye to hide it. I fought for this family. Now I'm letting the truth fight the rest. I'm David Miller, 38 years old, born and raised in Texas. I didn't come from money. My dad worked the oil fields, my mom ran a diner. I swung a hammer the summer I turned 15, and I never put it down. Over the years, I built Miller Construction from a single pickup truck and a set of borrowed tools into a company worth several $1,000,000. We specialized in custom homes and commercial projects. I had crews working all over the state, a reputation for finishing on time, and a waiting list of clients who trusted my handshake more than most people trust a contract. Life was good. I had the house, the pool, the big black F-250 in the driveway. And most of all, I had a family I thought I could trust. Jessica, my wife of 19 years, and our 2 kids, Ethan and Chloe. I thought I'd built something unshakable. But looking back now, the cracks had already started to form. From the outside, we were the kind of family people in our neighborhood envied. Jessica, my high school sweetheart, had traded her nursing degree to be a full-time mom. She kept the house looking like something out of a magazine. Fresh flowers on the counter, spotless hardwood floors, the smell of fresh-baked cookies on Sunday afternoons. Ethan, our oldest, was the star quarterback for his high school's varsity team. Every Friday night, Jessica and I would sit in the bleachers under the stadium lights, cheering until our voices went hoarse. Chloe, our 15-year-old, was the creative one. Always in rehearsals for the weekends were BBQs in the backyard, the kids splashing in the pool, my brother Ryan flipping burgers while music played from the outdoor speakers. We looked like the postcard version of the American dream. And I believed it. Ever Ryan is 3 years younger than me. We grew up sharing a bedroom, a beat-up Ford, and more than a few bruises from older kids in the neighborhood. I was the one who taught him how to drive, how to throw a punch, and later, how to frame a wall straight. When Miller Construction took off, it felt natural to bring him on board. I made him a project manager, good pay, steady work, and the kind of trust only brothers share. He came over for Sunday BBQs, brought beer to football games, and treated my kids like his own. Ethan called him Uncle Rye. Chloe would run to hug him when he walked in. Jessica always said it was nice having family so close, someone who understood our world. Back then, I saw Ryan as my right-hand man, loyal, dependable, and part of the foundation I'd built my life on. I had no idea. That foundation was already being eaten away from beneath my feet. It started with things so small, I almost felt stupid for noticing. Jessica joined a new gym, one of those upscale LA fitness locations across town. She said she wanted to feel healthier, but it came with a new wardrobe, fitted yoga pants, sleek sports bras, and tops that showed just a little more skin than before. Nothing outrageous, just different. Ryan started dropping by more often, usually in the evenings. He'd say he needed to run something by me about a project, but more and more, I'd find him in the kitchen with Jessica, laughing about something I'd missed. The kids changed too. Ethan, who used to tell me every detail of football practice, started going quiet. Chloe would stop talking the moment I walked into the room. If I asked what was going on, I'd get a shrug, a quick nothing, and eyes that wouldn't quite meet mine. At the time, I told myself it was all harmless. Looking back, I realized that's when the rot really began to spread. I'm not the kind of guy who jumps to conclusions. I build houses for a living, solid foundations, straight lines, no guesswork. So, when I saw little changes in Jessica, in the kids, even in Ryan, I told myself there had to be reasonable explanations. Midlife slump? Sure. Teenagers pulling away from their parents? Completely normal. My brother hanging around more? Maybe he was having trouble at home and needed the company. Besides, I had bigger things on my plate. Business was booming. 3 new contracts signed, a high-end custom home in Westlake wrapping up, and a commercial build downtown that could open doors for us in other states. My days were 12 hours of job sites, bids, and payroll. By the tie-so, I didn't ask questions. I didn't snoop. I kept my head down and my hands busy. That was my mistake. I wasn't paranoid enough. And it was going to cost me everything. 2 weeks ago, Ethan asked if he could borrow my AirPods. Said he'd lost his. Later that day, I went into his room to grab them from his desk. I'd seen them there earlier. The place looked like a typical teenage disaster zone. Football cleats under the bed, hoodies draped over a chair, a pile of textbooks threatening to collapse. While I was moving a stack of books, one slipped, clattering to the floor. Behind them, wedged against the wall, was an old iPhone. Not his current phone. This was an older model, the kind we'd upgraded from a year ago. Weird thing was, it still had a charge. I should have put it back. Should have respected his privacy. But something in my gut wouldn't let me. I swiped the screen. No passcode. The home screen lit up like a match in the dark. I had no idea, in that moment, that what I was about to see would burn my entire life to the ground. The first thing I saw was a text thread labeled Jess. I tapped it open. 2 years. 2 years of messages between my wife and my brother. Not a fling. Not a mistake. They were in love, at least that's what they told each other. Plans for our future together. Jokes about me being an obstacle. Photo after photo. My bed. His apartment. Even my office at a job site. Smiling selfies, half-dressed, tangled in sheets I'd bought. It felt like I was reading about strangers, like my own life had been rewritten without me in it. My hands didn't shake. I didn't cry. I just kept scrolling because somehow it got worse. There was another thread. Ethan, then Chloe. Messages proving my kids knew. For over a year, they'd been deleting doorbell footage, covering for their mother, running interference so their uncle could sneak in while I was at work. In that moment, the family I thought I knew stopped existing. I opened Ethan's thread first. There it was in black and white, code words, quick alerts. Uncle Rye's here. Dad just pulled into the subdivision. Even instructions from Jessica. Delete the ring cam from 4:30 to 6 o'clock. Then Chloe's. She was 15, yet there she was, telling Jessica's friends at the school play that Mom's been with me all afternoon when the timestamp said otherwise. Cover stories, fake schedules, little alibis to keep me blind. It wasn't passive, it wasn't ignorance. My kids had been lookouts, active players in their mother's affair with my brother. People talk about heartbreak like it's some crushing weight. For me, it was the opposite. I felt nothing. Empty, like my chest had been scooped out. I sat on Ethan's floor for over an hour, taking photos of every message, every image. By the time I stood up, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't going to be a confrontation. It was going to be an execution. Most people would have stormed downstairs, phone in hand, demanding answers. But I know my family. If I confronted them right then, they'd deny it, twist it, make me question my own eyes. Gaslighting, turning me into the crazy one. No. When I moved, it would be once. And it would count. I slipped the phone back exactly where I found it, walked downstairs into the smell of dinner cooking. Jessica at the stove, Ryan at the table drinking my beer, Ethan and, "Hey babe," Jessica smiled, kissing me on the cheek. Dinner's almost ready. I kissed her back, sat next to Ryan, asked him how work was. We laughed. We planned the weekend. We talked about Ethan's graduation and Chloe's play. Inside, I was already dismantling their world piece by piece. They thought I was clueless. They had no idea I'd just declared war. That night, after everyone was asleep, I went back to Ethan's room with my own phone in hand. I opened the hidden iPhone and started working like a crime scene photographer. Every text thread, every photo, every timestamp. Jessica and Ryan kissing in my kitchen while I was out pouring concrete on a job site. Her in my bed, his arm draped over her shoulder. Selfies in his work truck, my company's logo clear as day in the background. Messages from the kids, giving real-time updates. He's home. All clear. Even one from Chloe. Practice went late, with a photo from Jessica's phone that told a very different story. I organized everything into folders on a secure drive. Affair, kids, company property. I even tagged dates and times, knowing my lawyer would need it all airtight. By the time the sun came up, I didn't just have suspicions. I had a war chest. And when the time came, it was going to be nuclear. The next morning, I called in sick to the job site, a first for me in over a decade. Instead, I spent the day making quiet inquiries. A buddy of mine in commercial real estate gave me a name, Mark Garrison, a divorce attorney in Dallas with a reputation for being as friendly as a rattlesnake in a sleeping bag. I drove 3 hours to meet him in person. No calls, no emails, nothing that could leave a trail Jessica might stumble across. In his office, I laid out my evidence. Photos, messages, timestamps. He didn't even blink. In Texas, he said, adultery's still on the books. With this much proof, she's not getting half. She's getting whatever the court requires, and nothing more. And your brother? Employee misusing company property for personal activities? That's a separate hammer we can swing. By the time I left his office, I had a plan. This wasn't going to be a divorce. It was going to be a legal annihilation. First step was cutting the financial umbilical cord. I paid off every joint credit card, then closed them quietly. Moved my direct deposit from the company account into a new individual account Jessica didn't know existed. Next, I started liquidating. The boat went first. A 32-foot base fishing beauty I'd barely had time to use. I told Jessica, "Honey, the market's about to tank. Better to get out now while prices are high." She actually nodded, said she was proud I was thinking long-term. Then the Harley. A guy from Houston paid cash, no questions asked. I began selling pieces of our investment portfolio, moving the proceeds into a friend's business as loans, legitimate on paper, untouchable in a divorce. Jessica saw a cautious husband preparing for hard times. What she didn't see was a man draining the well before the snakes could drink from it. The more I shifted money, the more supportive Jessica became. She'd sit across from me at the kitchen island, a cup of chamomile tea in her hands, saying things like, "If this helps you feel secure, do it. We'll get through whatever's coming." She thought I was having some kind of midlife financial panic, maybe too many late nights watching market crash videos on YouTube. I let her think that. I even started dropping hints about tightening the belt. Suggested we cut back on eating out, maybe postpone that trip to Cabo we'd talked about. She agreed without hesitation, probably thinking less debt would make her transition to Ryan easier when the time came. What she didn't realize was that every responsible decision was another brick in the wall I was building between her and everything we'd accumulated together. She thought she was helping me feel safe. In reality, she was helping me lock her out of my life forever. At home, nothing changed, at least not on the surface. I still grilled steaks on Friday nights, still sat at the head of the table, still asked Ethan about football and Chloe about her school play. I kissed Jessica goodnight, wrapped my arm around her during Netflix binges, even surprised her with flowers, just because. It wasn't hard. I'd been playing the role of devoted husband for 19 years. Now it was just scripted. Every smile, every laugh, every "I love you" was a line in a play only I knew the ending to. Meanwhile, in the background, the clock was ticking. Accounts closed. Assets moved. Evidence secured. The walls of our perfect little life were still standing, but only because I hadn't decided to knock them down yet. If Jessica suspected anything, she didn't show it. And why would she? In her mind, I was the same steady, predictable man she'd always known. In mine, I was weeks away from burning it all to the ground. One afternoon at the office, I called Ryan into my office and told him I wanted to reward him for all his hard work. His eyes lit up the second I said the word promotion. I handed him the title of operations director, along with a modest raise. On paper, it looked like a step up. In reality, it was a loaded weapon pointed right at him. Mark, my lawyer, had helped me draft new contracts that made Ryan personally liable for any major screw-ups on the job. Delays, safety violations, misuse of company property. The very same company property he'd been using to meet Jessica. I started funneling him projects that were really just busy work, knowing his attention span and discipline weren't built for the long haul. Every mistake went into a neat little file on my desk, time-stamped and signed. Ryan thought he was climbing the ladder. He didn't see that I was building the gallows at the top. Once Ryan had his shiny new title, I kept him busy with key projects that didn't really matter. Then I watched him crumble under the weight of responsibilities he thought he wanted. Missed deadlines, over-budget bids, materials ordered in the wrong quantities. Every screw-up went straight into my evidence folder, complete with dated emails, signed change orders, and photos from the job sites. But the crown jewel? His drinking. I'd always known Ryan liked a beer at lunch, but now I made sure to drop by sites unexpectedly. More than once, I found him with a half-empty bottle in his hand, laughing with the crew while safety protocols went ignored. I started taking discreet photos. Him holding a beer next to a forklift. His work truck parked outside a bar at 2 p.m. all tagged, all time-stamped. By the time I was done, Ryan wasn't just an unfaithful brother. He was a walking HR and OSHA violation. The house was the crown jewel of our perfect life, 4,000 square feet in a quiet Austin suburb, worth about 800 grand and paid off in full, which made it the perfect target. Through a buddy at the golf course, I found a cash buyer willing to work on my timeline. No realtor, no public listing, just a handshake and a number Jessica couldn't ignore. One evening over dinner, I brought it up casually. "Babe, this guy made an offer too good to pass up. We could downsize, invest the profits, set ourselves up for the future." She hesitated at first. "Too many memories," she said. "Pool parties, Christmas mornings, birthdays." I leaned into the financial security angle, reminding her of all my recent stress about the market. By dessert, she was nodding. By the next week, she'd signed the initial paperwork. She thought we were trading up to a dream home. In reality, I was pulling the floor right out from under her feet. Once the house sale was in motion, I started moving the pieces that really mattered, quietly, one at a time. Photo albums? I scanned every page, uploaded them to a private cloud, then shipped the originals to a secure storage unit in Denver. My grandfather's gold watch? I bought a replica online, identical down to the scratches on the clasp, and wore that while the real one sat in my new safe. Tools from my shop, every high-end drill, saw, and precision set, got replaced with cheaper duplicates. Jessica never stepped foot in the workshop, so she didn't notice the weight difference or the feel in the handle. Even my wardrobe was swapped out piece by piece. Every time I donated old clothes, the real items were already hanging in a Denver closet. By the time I was done, the man living in that house was just a shell. The real me was already 2 states away, waiting for the right moment to disappear completely. While Jessica thought I was networking for future jobs, I was actually laying the foundation for my escape. Through a trusted contact, I registered a brand new LLC in Colorado under a name that had nothing to do with Miller Construction. The paperwork listed me as a minority owner, with a local partner fronting the day-to-day operations. Perfect cover if anyone went digging. I already had my first contract lined up, a multi-million-dollar commercial build in downtown Denver, the kind of project that would keep me busy for months and legitimize my sudden relocation when the time came. I set up a new business account at a Denver bank, leased a small but fully furnished apartment near the job site, even joined a gym down the street. To Jessica, these trips were just business opportunities on the horizon. In reality, I was already living my next chapter, one where she, Ryan, and my so-called family didn't exist. In my Denver apartment, I laid everything out on the kitchen counter like tools before a job. First, the divorce papers, ironclad, drafted by Mark, citing adultery with overwhelming evidence attached. Then, printed screenshots, every text, every photo, every timestamp. Each page labeled and organized so there could be no denying what they showed. Next, a USB drive with the full digital archive. Thousands of files, including videos from the Ring doorbell and security cameras Ryan thought my kids had erased. I topped it off with financial statements showing every move I'd made. Accounts closed, assets shifted, loans documented, no wiggle room, no misunderstandings. On the top of the stack, I placed a single yellow sticky note in my handwriting. I know everything. Don't contact me. Communicate through my lawyer. When Jessica woke up and found it, I wanted her to understand this wasn't a conversation. It was a verdict. Amanda had always been kind to me, sweet, a little shy, the kind of person who sent thank you cards for the smallest things. She didn't deserve what Ryan had been doing to her any more than I did. I called her from a prepaid phone, voice steady. "Amanda, I need to meet you, alone, and you're going to want to hear what I have to say." We met in a quiet coffee shop on the outskirts of town. No one we knew would be there. I slid a plain manila envelope across the table. She hesitated, then opened it. Her hands shook as she flipped through the photos, the messages, the timestamps. Halfway through, her eyes filled with tears, not the soft kind, but the kind that hardened into fury. "I'll handle it," she said, voice low and cold, and I knew she would. By the time I was gone, Amanda would be detonating her own bomb in Ryan's life. 2 fronts, 1 war. I told Jessica I had a big opportunity in Denver, a meeting with investors for a potential commercial build. Just a quick business trip, 2 days at most. She didn't question it. These kinds of trips were part of my work. The truth was, my real luggage had already been shipped to my Denver apartment a week earlier. On the morning of my trip, I'd only take a backpack, my wallet, a change of clothes, and the essentials I needed to walk out of Texas and never come back. I even booked a return flight for appearances, sent myself a fake itinerary to show her if she asked. Every detail was designed to make it look like I'd be walking back through our front door by the weekend. In reality, once I boarded that plane, the David Miller she knew would cease to exist. The man who came back from Denver? He wasn't coming back at all. That night I grilled ribbies out back while Ethan tossed a football to Chloe in the yard. Jessica set the table, humming along to some country song on the radio. From the outside, we could have been the cover photo for a family magazine. We sat down together, clinking glasses, talking about Ethan's upcoming game, Chloe's costume fittings for the school play. Ryan even stopped by, grabbed a beer, and joined us for dessert. I laughed at his jokes, nodded when Jessica brushed my arm, smiled when Chloe told a story about her friends. Inside, I was memorizing it all. The sound of their voices, the way the porch light spilled across the lawn, the clink of silverware against plates. Not because I missed them already, but because I wanted to remember exactly what it looked like, the night before I tore their world apart. When the plates were cleared, I kissed Jessica goodnight. In my head, I was already gone. I woke before dawn, showered, dressed, and packed my single backpack. Jessica stirred as I kissed her cheek. "Back in 2 days," I whispered. She smiled without opening her eyes. Ethan mumbled a sleepy, "See ya, Dad," from his doorway. Chloe didn't even wake up. Ryan would be by later for our weekly meeting. By the time he walked into that kitchen, the truth would already be staring them in the face. I set the envelope on the table, divorce papers, screenshots, financial statements, and the sticky note. "I know everything. Don't contact me. Communicate through my lawyer." My phone, factory reset, sat in the kitchen drawer. The number they'd been calling for years was already dead. By the time the sun broke over Austin, I was on the highway to the airport. 3 hours later, I was 30,000 feet in the air. Down below, their perfect little world was crumbling, exactly as planned. According to Mark, my lawyer, Jessica found the envelope just after 7 a.m. She'd gone to make coffee, probably expecting a quiet morning. Instead, she saw the stack of papers, the photos, the USB drive. By 7:05, she was calling my cell, straight to voicemail. She called again and again, then the house phone, then my work number. Finally, she reached Mark's office. He answered on speaker, his voice calm, professional. "Mrs. Miller, all communication will go through me. My client will not be responding to personal contact." He told me later she cycled from screaming to crying to bargaining in under 5 minutes. She wanted to know where I was, when I'd be home, how we could fix this. Mark's reply was the same each time. "This matter is proceeding through the courts. You have our contact information." The call ended with her sobbing into the line, and me, somewhere over New Mexico, smiling into my coffee. By the time Ryan showed up at the office that morning, everything had already exploded. Amanda didn't just leave him, she went scorched earth. Within hours, she posted everything. Screenshots, photos, timestamps, tagged Ryan, Jessica, even their families. The entire town saw the betrayal laid bare. At first, Ryan tried to laugh it off, said it was just some online drama. But when the company foreman showed up with security to escort him out, the reality hit hard. Our lawyer sent a certified termination letter citing misuse of company property and breach of contract. No chance of appeal, no severance. Ryan was unemployed, divorced, and blacklisted in the industry, all within 24 hours. The man who once thought he was climbing the ladder was now left with nothing but a ruined reputation and a public humiliation that would follow him for years. That afternoon, Ethan tried to log into his college fund account to put down his dorm deposit. Surprise, the account was empty. All the money, gone. Chloe, meanwhile, reached for her credit card to grab lunch at school, only to have it declined at the register. The cashier gave her a puzzled look as she fumbled for cash she didn't have. Both of them scrambled to call me, through new emails, social media, even friends, but every attempt was blocked. "No, Dad, please help." "No, I'm sorry." Just silence on my end. They had chosen their side, and now they'd have to live with the consequences. Ethan sent messages from new email accounts. Chloe created fresh social media profiles. They begged, pleaded, and tried every route imaginable to break through my silence. But every attempt was met with the same wall. Blocked, deleted, ignored. I didn't respond. I couldn't. They weren't victims. They were accomplices. Every lie, every cover-up, every deletion of security footage, they were part of it. I didn't want to hear their excuses. I didn't want to give them a chance to gaslight me, to make me doubt what I knew to be true. Their betrayal cut deep, but it was their choice. Their actions spoke louder than any apology ever could. Sometimes love isn't enough to fix what's been broken. And for me, the silence was the only answer I could give. Denver was a fresh start, clean slate, new air, no ghosts from my past. I moved into a modest but comfortable apartment just a few blocks from my new job site. The space was small, but it was mine. No one to lie to, no secrets to hide. I found a local gym and started hitting it hard. Boxing bags, lifting weights, pounding out the anger and pain. Every drop of sweat was a step toward the man I wanted to be. The commercial project downtown was a beast. Multi-million-dollar build with tight deadlines and plenty of eyes watching. It was exactly the kind of challenge I needed to focus on. Work gave me purpose. The gym gave me strength. For the first time in years, I was free. Even though I was 2,000 miles away, Miller Construction wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. I'd transferred 60% ownership to my trusted foreman, a guy who'd been with me for 15 years and knew the business inside and out. The paperwork was airtight. I was a silent partner, but still pulling in 35% of the profits. Without the constant family drama, the company grew faster than ever. Projects finished ahead of schedule, clients were happier, and the reputation I'd built remained intact. I checked in occasionally, but the day-to-day was no longer my burden. It felt strange, letting go, but also liberating. I could finally focus on building my life without distractions. Miller Construction was my legacy. I wasn't ready to give it up, and thanks to the new management, it was in good hands. After getting fired, Ryan tried to salvage something by starting his own construction company. Thought he could bounce back, prove me wrong. But word travels fast in this industry. His reputation was shredded. Suppliers refused to extend credit. Skilled workers wouldn't take his calls. Clients bailed as soon as they heard the rumors. Within 3 months, his new company folded. The debts piled up, loans he took out based on promises that evaporated into thin air. He was left with nothing but a damaged name and the bitter taste of failure. I heard through the grapevine that Amanda moved out with the kids, taking what little stability they had left. Ryan's life became a cautionary tale. How far someone can fall when they burn every bridge in sight. Jessica's new reality was a far cry from the house with the pool and Sunday BBQs. She moved into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town, where the walls were thin and the neighbors always seemed to argue. No more designer clothes or nights out, just the hum of fluorescent lights at the retail store where she worked part-time, ringing up groceries and folding racks of clearance items. I heard she was barely making ends meet, juggling shift work with trying to keep the kids afloat. Gone was the woman who once commanded respect in the neighborhood. Now, she was just another face blending into the crowd. It wasn't a glamorous fall, but it was the consequence of choices she made. Ethan traded his varsity football jersey for the less glamorous uniform of community college student and part-time barista. He works early mornings at the coffee shop, juggling classes and shifts to pay for textbooks and rent. No more tailgate parties or Friday night lights, just late nights studying and early mornings brewing espresso. Chloe, at 15, took on babysitting gigs to help with the bills. She's exhausted, missing out on drama club rehearsals and time with friends, but she knows she has to keep the lights on. They're both learning lessons nobody wanted to teach them. The price of betrayal isn't just emotional, it's real, tangible, and sometimes crushing. Their lives changed forever. But if this is their new normal, it's one they brought on themselves. Denver wasn't just a fresh start professionally, it was a reset for my body and mind. I hit the gym 5 days a week, trading in the stress for sweat. Boxing became my therapy, each punch a release of the anger and betrayal I'd been holding on to. I dropped 20 pounds of fat and added muscle I hadn't seen in years. But it wasn't just about the physical. I started making new friends, guys who actually had integrity, who didn't bring drama or secrets. We shared stories, laughs, and workouts. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I belonged somewhere without carrying the weight of a broken family on my shoulders. This wasn't just survival, it was thriving. It wasn't just betrayal, it was calculated. In the mountain of messages and photos, I found something chilling. Jessica and Ryan had been planning their next move for months, maybe even years. They were waiting for my business to hit a certain value, because they knew that would mean a bigger payday when we divorced. They wanted to keep up appearances, play the part of the perfect family just long enough to cash in on everything I'd built. The kids were part of the plan too, keeping me distracted, playing their roles in this twisted charade. It wasn't just about love or lust, it was about money, and they were willing to burn me to ashes to get it. Amanda reached out a few weeks after I handed her the evidence. What started as cautious emails turned into phone calls, then occasional meetups for coffee. We were two people left picking up the pieces after the same storm. Her betrayed by her husband's lies, me by my brothers and wife's. Our conversations weren't about revenge anymore. They were about healing, rebuilding, and sometimes just venting about how people we trusted could turn so cold. She was smart, grounded, and honest. Everything Ryan wasn't. It wasn't friendship at first. Maybe it wasn't even trust. But it was the start of something new, an alliance forged in fire. And as she prepared to move to Denver next month, I knew having her nearby might just make this new chapter a little less lonely. I bought a modest house in a quiet Denver neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but mine. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a small workshop out back where I could work without interruptions or judgment. The peace was something I hadn't known I craved. No whispers, no lies, just the sound of power tools and my own breathing. I also started teaching part-time at a local trade school. Passing on what I'd learned wasn't just a job, it was a way to rebuild purpose and give others a chance I never had. The students were a mixed crowd, young guys and women eager to learn the trades, looking for a better life. It felt good to be part of something bigger, to mentor, and to see potential unfold. Denver had become more than just an escape. It was home. Looking back, I don't regret a single thing. Some say forgiveness is the path to peace. Maybe it is, for some people, but not for me. Not after what I learned. Jessica and Ryan didn't just cheat. They conspired. They lied every day, dragged my own kids into the mess, and treated my life like a game. I chose scorched earth because it was the only way to protect what was left of me, to show them that betrayal has consequences, that loyalty and respect aren't just words, they're actions. I've been asked if I wish I'd tried counseling, if I should have fought harder for the family. The answer's simple, no. Sometimes, the only way to rebuild is to burn it all down first, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. In America, we like to talk about forgiveness, but forgiveness is earned, not owed. My family didn't just betray me, they conspired against me, and when that happens, you don't give second chances. You take back your life. If someone shows you who they are, believe them, then act accordingly. I chose to act. I chose myself. To any man watching this, struggling with betrayal, remember, you don't owe anyone your forgiveness. You don't owe them a second chance. You owe it to yourself to walk away, to build something better, to live life on your terms. If this story hit home, comment "never again" and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because some battles aren't just about winning, they're about reclaiming your soul. Thank you for watching.